come to Cathy Tindall's stables in Buckinghamshire today to learn firsthand about her remarkable techniques. Cathy's been around horses for as long as she can remember, and her work as an equine behavioural therapist is well known and respected. Cathy has successfully treated all manner of problems with horses, kicking, biting, barging, you name it, but always with a gentleness and understanding that comes from a deep respect and love for the animal. How does she do it? Cathy Tindall says anyone can do it. Let's find out. Hi, Cathy.
Hi. Oops, stand still.
Who's this?
This is Harry. Ooh, eating my coat. There we go. Thank you.
Why is Harry here today?
Harry's here today because his owner would like him to be a little bit less stressy.
Okay.
He does get upset in some situations, and she would like a way to calm him down so that they can get on and do their show or compete or whatever they're going to do.
And what would you recommend for that?
I think what I'd do to start with is we do some groundwork, we do some touches on him, and then just ask him to do various things on the ground. And this is something that's a pet of mine, is that I do like them to do a lot of groundwork. I think people should do more with their horses, understand them on the ground. They'll understand them better when they're on the top. And when they're riding, obviously things are much more hazardous and they could actually get into a lot more trouble. So if they know the little bits that their horse does, how it shows that it's uptight about something, the better it'll be.
So what would be the first thing you'd do when you first look at a horse?
When I first look at a horse, I really want to know what he's saying to us. I mean, he says it in a very silent language. He's not loud, he doesn't make noises. And we have to look at things like his ears, what his ears are saying, what his eyes are saying, what his mouth is saying. And every horse is different, and it depends how they feel as to how they'll actually be showing it. And also how they hold their body. And if you see, Harry's quite tight here on his neck, he's quite solid. So you can feel that that's actually quite stressy. If you look at his lips, he just moves them from time to time and does this licking and chewing action, and that can actually mean that he's not happy, he's a little bit concerned about what's going on. So it's another thing to note about him. Okay, Renee, would you mind coming and holding Harry for us? That's lovely. There we go. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you a touch, all right, which we're going to use all over his body, and this will actually help to calm him down and will give him a better sense of his body, which will help in stress situations. Now, if you can imagine the face of a clock, and you start your fingers off at 6 o'clock, you push the skin around, go back to 6 o'clock, a little bit further to 8, and then you come off. All right, so it's just a circle and a quarter, and you use your knuckles. And people think sometimes that it's a massage. It's not. It's literally just moving the skin around on the horse. All right. So
is there much pressure there?
Nope. Very light. In fact, do the pressure first. If you put your finger on your eyelid and just move your eyelid around as lightly as you can, that's pressure 1. Now do it a little bit harder, so it's as much as you can bear without it being nasty. That's 3. So you want to use pressure 3 on most horses. Now, some might find it too light, so then you go a little bit harder. Some might find it too soft.
So how would you know it was too light?
They will start moving around or nipping, or again, they'll be telling you, you know, feet, tail, ears, mouth, eyes, it all tells you whether they like it or not. So,
what's Harry saying?
He's actually saying, I don't mind this too much, because he's stopped moving around so much. And here we go. So maybe he's moving backwards, maybe he's not going to like it so much back here. Now this touch can actually be done all over, and I would say to Renee to actually do this to him when you get home. Everywhere you can possibly touch him, between his legs, under his dock, get him really used to it, and going down the legs And you can even do on the sole of the foot. All right, and that will help with all the energies going down to the ground. So you're going to have a go?
Yes. So where should I
So
start?
connect, you can, generally I always start here or on the neck where the horse is quite happy to be touched. So if you just put your left hand on him as well, and just move your hand around and get your knuckles a little bit moving, that's it, and then just move on.
And is it random spaces?
Yeah, it can be random. Some people like to do it in lines, going down 4 lines down the body. But to be honest, I just work where I feel I want to work, you know. And sometimes I'll spend more time in one place.
Is that if you feel more tension?
Yeah, I mean, I probably do quite a bit on his neck here. And we might even find, if you look at his bum is very solid as well, very tight here. And I probably do quite a few up here. And if you find it difficult to get your knuckles moving, if you clasp one hand over the other and then do it through there, the knuckles actually move. And on a day like today, it's a little bit chilly and our hands are cold, it helps to warm the hands up as well. Okay, so we've done that all over his body, and I think we'll just move up.
Can I just ask, what is this doing?
This is just helping the horse to rid itself of stress. We don't know 100% why it does it or how it does it. All we know is at the end, when we've worked a horse with the touch, that is a lot calmer, it's much more manageable. And sometimes, and what we try and see, is they'll give a big sigh or snort, and the head will go down, and then we might get some yawning, and that really does mean that we've shifted a lot of stuff for them, and they feel a lot more comfortable. That's great, that's good. Okay.
And should you always keep contact with the left hand?
Yeah, I like to. I just feel, and that's even if you're just holding the lead rope in the left hand, that you're in contact. It's just a little bit like electricity, you know. I always think it comes out through there and then in through this hand, and that's what makes a difference. Okay, and then just as you were doing actually, we generally give them a nice wipe over and connect the whole body, which is super. We've done all our touches all over his head, so he's got quite used to that. And then I like to use the flat of my hand to do the same 1.25 circles on his nostrils. Number one, it feels nice for me to do, but and I'm sure it actually feels nice for him.
And is that calming?
It is calming him, yeah. Again, a lot of horses that get very stressed, they almost pinch their lips, and this gets very over, sweetie. Good boy. These muscles get very, very tight. So what we do is you just pop our thumb up the nostril and then just pull these down. And you can see he's sort of saying, "Oh, what on earth are you doing?" Well, that's fine. This is the first time he's ever had anything like this done. He's a good boy. You're doing really well.
So what is his lips are sort of telling you that?
His lips are sort of saying, "Get off, please don't do that." So, you know, we accept what he says. We come out and we go back a track and do the touching, and again it's something he's not comfortable with, so we don't need to push it on the first visit.
Okay.
But what I'd say to Renee is this is an area he's not comfortable with, so work on it through the next week or so and get him more used to it. Now he's got a little bit mouthy again, so I think what I'd like to do is show you some mouth work. All right, now this is amazing, and I have to say people get a little bit worried about it, especially people that have really bitey horses. There's no big deal, promise.
Okay.
All right. To start with, we're going to just slip the index finger in his mouth and rub up and down what we call the bars of the mouth, in between the teeth. There's no teeth there, so you won't get bitten. Okay?
And if he did close up,
no, you won't get bitten because there's no teeth there.
Okay.
Then we're going to put two fingers, maybe 3 fingers in, and play a tune on his tongue. And again, this gets him very used to the bit, so if you've got a youngster that hasn't had anything in its mouth, you can do that. All right, and then out. And then we're going to do just wet your finger, whoops, slip your finger in between the lip and the gums, and we're actually rubbing the top gums, and this is the emotional link to the brain.
Okay.
All right, so any horses that are a little bit stressed out, or if people have horses that come in, they've just bought into a new yard, do this, and you can see, look at his eyes. You know, he is enjoying this. And look, they're closing, and his head is going to gradually come down. Now, you will find that some horses don't actually take so well to this, but all I can say is persevere. You know, for owners that horses lift their head up, persevere, because they will like it in the end. And this is something that Renee can do any time that he gets stressed out when she's showing him, if he goes into a show ring and he gets a little bit worried. It's nice, isn't it? He says, yep, it's not too bad. That's a good boy. But for very nippy horses, it's great. Well done, that's lovely. And then I'm going to work his ears.
Okay.
Now we start at the base of the ear and we actually work up. And you'll see me doing this to a lot of the horses that I work with. And basically, the ear houses a lot of acupressure points. So by rubbing them, we stimulate the whole body, and we stimulate the whole body to actually heal itself. So we don't actually have to give him any tablets or injections or anything. The body's quite capable of healing itself if it's given the right stimuli. So just pulling up, push the ear down, forward and backwards, and then slide your thumb up inside the ear to the tip, and just sort of a firm grip there. And at the very tip of the ear is what we call the anti-stress point.
Right.
And if you rub this for several minutes, you can really see a difference. I mean, look, I've only just started.
Yeah.
Look at his eyes, look at his mouth, and he's actually standing still. Now, this can actually save lives, and you can do it on any animal. But this works beautifully with horses. Do you want to have a go on the ears? Just push. They're nice. It feels good.
The ears don't feel so.
No.
Just a bit worrying. I think to think of putting your hand in a horse's mouth when you see the size of the teeth. I suppose that's a problem, isn't it? People being scared to touch the horses. Especially
if they're bitey horses. You know, horses that really do attack their owners. You know, their owners stay away from their mouth, but in actual fact, the thing they need to do is get in there. So they need to do all of what we've done, rubbing the bars, playing with the tongue, and rubbing the gums, and it really does help to take that fear for the owner away. But also, if you get you put your hand in the horse's mouth, it sort of has less effect, you know, when to bite you. It doesn't really want to do it. That was great, Harry. So you like the ears better?
Yes.
Yeah, it's nice. But this is something you can do when you're riding, Renee. You know, if he ever gets upset out on a hack, or if you're showing him under saddle, you know, you can just do this and calm them down straight away.
Is there an order that you should do it in? Like,
no. I mean, if you're learning it, you might want to do it in an order so you remember each individual step. So like we've done today, we've done the touch, the circle and a quarter. Then we did the mouth and the nostrils and then the ears. But if I went to a horse and I felt that the ears would be the best thing to do first, then I'd do that. So it's whatever you think. And this is why I say people need to know their horse on the ground so that they could know what they can actually do.
And it's from the horse's own language that you pick up where to go.
Absolutely.
First.
Yeah. I mean, you know, because if he'd come in here and he was really high-headed, which he wasn't too bad, we might start on the neck straight away.
And that would mean that the tension's in the neck.
Just like us doing that, you know, pulling our shoulders up. But all of these that I've just shown you are a technique that a lady called Linda Tellington-Jones, a Canadian animal expert, has devised over the years. And they're absolutely brilliant, and anybody can do them. Absolutely anybody can do them. All right, good boy. Right, we've gone over the various body touches, and there's something else that we can do to help him reduce the stress, and that's actually by using what we call a wand, which I've got here. If you want to pass it to me. It's just a 4-foot dressage stick, if you like, and you can get black ones from your tack shop. The great thing about using the wand is that it's an extension of your arm, and for some horses that don't actually like you touching them, you can use a stick instead of your hand, so it helps them that way. The other great thing is, I think, is for safety, because you're 4 foot away from anything you don't want to touch. So for instance, if he had a problem with his back legs, we're at quite a distance but can still touch his back legs. And what I'll do is I just start off introducing the wand all over his body, and we're here on the near side at the minute, that's this side, but you do exactly the same on the other side of the body as well. You go down the legs, right the way up to the back, and then down the back legs. And as you see, I can actually get there without being in kick range, and that's a really good place to be.
Well.
Yeah, his head's gone down. So once we've used the butt end of it, we'll actually turn it up and use the thinner end. And again, stroke the legs. When you're doing the legs, end up by actually tapping the feet, the hooves, which gives them a feeling of grounding. It's sort of bringing everything down to their feet. Good boy. And he's just saying he's not too comfortable with that. He's just moved back a bit, but that's fine. And again, we keep a check on his facial expressions. Now, Harry doesn't actually like a lot of things at his back end, which is quite obvious by the amount of tension he keeps there. And this is getting him used to it. So if someone's got to, if someone has a youngster and needs, easy, good boy, and needs to start picking up feet, he can use the stick. Or if he's got easy, it's okay, baby. It's all right. There we are. And very good boy. Now he's licking and chewing, which we mentioned earlier again, so in actual fact he's not as comfortable as he is now. I'm just going to move him forward a little bit if you just move away, because we've got, walk on, and ho. There we are.
So how often would you do this?
We do this as often as you can, especially with a horse that has an area it doesn't like it being done on. So for instance, the back end. And the more you can do this and the more used to he gets of having it done, the better he'll be and the more the stress is actually moving out. So as often as you can. The great thing about using a dressage stick as well is you can use it when you're actually riding. So once the horse gets to relax with the wand, there you are, head going down a little bit there. When you're on top, you can just wipe them over with the stick and they'll relax again. It's brilliant. It really is good. His head's lowered and he's perfectly calm, and it works that quickly. Brilliant. Good boy.
Cathy, what's wrong with Tally?
Tally has a problem that a lot of owners will be able to relate to, is he barges and he pulls his owner all over the place. So today we're going to see if we can give his owner a little bit more control. There we go, round we go again.
We're going round again?
So that he will stand still when he's meant to be standing still, and he will just wait for the command to move forward. So that's what we're going to do today. To start with, we're going to change the lead.
Right.
This is very difficult, and as you see, he can just pull me wherever he wants. He's ever so strong, and so is a pony, so it's difficult to keep them where you want. So I'm going to use the team method of leading. Thank you, good boy. And we're going to take a chain, and the chain is just for a refined amount of work that I need to do with my hand. It goes down through the side loop, up over the noseband, comes out, wait a minute Tally, out of the side hoop and clips onto the top hoop at my foot. Thank you very much. Good boy. So basically what I've got now is a little bit more control. I don't need to be hard on it. I will only use fingertip pressure. All right. Now the other thing I think will be good for him is to have two people leading him. All right, and would you mind being on the other side for me?
Not at all.
Right, so all we're going to do is we're going to ask him to move forward and then ask him to stop. And whoa, that's great. If you just keep your wand there, all right? The reason for the wands is to focus him. So when they're closed, it means he has to stop. And if you open yours out now, that means he can go forward in that channel. So if we come round to my left, Tally, walk on. Good boy. Good boy. Now to ask him to stop is threefold. We're going to use the wand and we're going to use our voice and the chain. And I'm going to say, and ho, and you just keep yours shut across. That's brilliant. Yep. So you're the helper, I'm the colonel. I do all the stuff and you just stop him from moving forward. And that's much better. And if you look at him, he's actually a little more comfortable. because we're taking control of the situation. Wait. And a rotation of my wrist. Here we go again, forward. So rotate the wrist forward and release. Let him move forward. Good boy. And now I'm going to ask him to stop. So if you come in front and ho. Good boy. So just to go over that, to ask him to stop, it's a wand action that comes down and taps twice on the opposite shoulder. All right, and to move on, we're going to ask him to lower his head down, tally, and walk on. Good boy. This is really nice. Good. Now I'm going to use that stop. So it's wand, voice, and rotation of my wrist. And hold. So now we've used the butt end.
Okay.
Let's turn our wands over and use the other end. And this time, wait. Instead of being up here on the chain, I can actually come down the line. And we'll actually find that some horses that are bargy actually prefer you to be further away.
Okay.
And it's just they feel more comfortable. So we're going to go off again, ready, and walk on. And you can slide down the line even further and come further in front.
Right.
Now the hardest thing about this lead position is being in front of your horse. Steady. Most people find it very, very frightening and daunting to have a horse behind them. That doesn't necessarily mean that the horse is going to do anything. It's just that they've been so used to leading by the shoulder that this is very weird for them. And oh, good boy. And then again, you see, you can use your wand for your stroking, all the things that we've done already to reassure him, to connect his body. Good boy. Lovely. And if he's a biter or he bashes you with his head, you can actually use the wand like a windscreen wiper to keep a distance between the two of you. Now look how he's holding his head. It's low, he's relaxed, and he's really not bothered about carting us anywhere. And ho. Good boy.
Is it important for me to stop when you tell him to stop?
Only if you stop in front of him. With this lead position, let's just go forward again. Good boy. We must always be in front.
Okay.
So if it takes him a few strides to stop, then you have to keep walking too. Let's try it here, shall we? And ho. Okay, so we actually needed to keep walking to remain in front. And this method of leading is brilliant for children to lead their ponies as well. It gives space in between the two, it gives much more control, and it's great fun to do. See? Easy.
Cathy, I understand people bring horses to you when they have trouble tying them up. What do you do for that?
There's quite a few things we can do, and obviously in the same vein that we've already done, we do a lot of touch, a lot of ear work to get them really settled, and obviously tying up is such a fundamental thing for the horse because it needs to be tied outside its stable while you're perhaps grooming it or mucking out, and it shows you need to be able to tie them up. So it is a problem, but what we're going to do is show a way to allow the horse to understand exactly what you want from him. And this is actually called pressure release, and it's a type of leading that you can do as well. But it teaches the horse that when it feels pressure up here, to move towards it so that it takes the pressure off, so it becomes comfortable and it's released. And the best way to do this is just to get a nice thick rope, a head collar that's not going to break, and a pair of gloves.
Okay.
That's great. Could you just hold that?
Yeah.
It's always important to use gloves when you're actually using this method of leading, because there is a chance that the rope gets pulled through your hand and then you do end up with nasty rope burns. So stick a pair of gloves on for safety.
Okay.
Thank you. That's lovely.
Want to come up, Dylan?
It's not going to. There we go. Right, so what we're going to do is I'm going to put some pressure on the head collar and pull him towards me a little bit. and then release. As soon as he moves forward, you release the line. Okay, I'm going to back him up again, and the backing up is equally important. Just going back to our bargee horse before, horses that barge forward find backing up very difficult, so get them used to backing up on command. So I'm going to put a little bit of pressure on and release as soon as he comes forward. Good boy, well done. Let's ask him to back. We'll do this once more, and you don't need to keep repeating these things with horses. They learn very quickly. Good boy. He's finding the stones tough. Okay. All right, so pressure on and release. Good boy. And that way he felt the pressure come on the head collar and he walked away from the pressure. And that's what we need him to do when he's tied up. So if we take him over to the string where he's tied up, and we tie him up as he normally would be if we were going to groom him or tack him up. Put that through there. Okay, if he were to move back, he would then know that the pressure is on, he better move forward, and that way you get a horse that will just stay tied up and won't keep breaking the rope that it's attached to. All right, so that's one way. Another nice way I like doing, particularly with foals, is to use a long line, and I have one here. And what we're going to do here, I'm going to take my glove off and pop that one down. Can I give that to you, sweetheart? This is actually going to be passed through this loop over here, through the second loop that is by him, and then attached to his head collar. Okay, now what we have here is an ability for him to move backwards quite a distance without getting himself all caught up. So I'm going to ask him to move back here. You're going to go back for me, Dylan? Here we go. Great, so he's moved back there, and if I want to bring him forward, if he came to the extent of that line, I just pull it in and then release. So at no time does he ever feel trapped. He can actually move backwards, and we can ask him to move forward because we've already taught him what this pressure release is. All right, so this, as I say, is brilliant for young foals so they don't get themselves too tangled up. Right, this is Cara.
And what's wrong with Cara?
Cara gets a little bit jittery about having her head collar put on and her bridle from time to time, and sometimes she's absolutely fine, sometimes she doesn't like it. So what I'd like to do with her today is just get her used to people moving around her head.
So we're using the same technique?
Exactly the same. I tend to now always use the touch whenever I touch a horse. But what I'm going to show you now is if she was really head shy, and she's not too bad, we would use what we call an advance and retreat. So we will start on her shoulder where horses are generally happy to be touched. And then I'll just creep up slightly towards her ear until she remonstrates, which you just saw her head going, and then I come back down to the shoulder again. Okay. So what we're doing is we're advancing, and then she's going to say, no thank you. So we've gone a bit further now. And then we come back down, which is the retreat. And this works brilliantly with any area of a horse that you can't actually touch. So you're coming up the neck, we're creeping further and further up, and then back down again. Okay. And by coming back down, some people would say we're giving in to her. We're not, we're listening to her. She's saying, I can't take it there much more, so don't do it. So you have to come up a little bit more and then come back down. So the art is to read your horse. This is what I was saying earlier. All this stuff on the ground, all this touch on the ground makes you understand your horse better. Now she's, you know, and what she's saying, no thank you. And she's actually very expressive, and she's part Arab, and they are very expressive. You know, they really do tell you what they want. Now I'm coming up here, and then now I'm only going halfway down the neck, because halfway down the neck has been okay for a little while, and then I'm coming up. Now we're doing really well here. Now if she was totally didn't want me to touch her, which often they are, can I not borrow your glove?
Yeah.
At least one, that's lovely. The other one.
Oh.
Thank you. If you put a glove on your hand, you then become removed from the horse by a piece of material, and sometimes they will allow you to do that better than if it was just your hand.
And the same with this, how often is it?
As often as you can. I always say to people, you know, every time you put the head collar on, just do 2 minutes, you know, just a little bit, and then come back down. So she always knows you're going to go back to a safe area, advance, and then retreat. And then as you do that, you soon begin to be able to come up a little bit. And there we are, we're actually up to the ears. And again, I will go into all the ear work that we've done and rubbing the ears. Good girl. And that's what we call advance and retreat, and that's what will help actually get her used to her ears being touched. Easy going. Good girl. Right, another thing with head shy horses, and why owners have such a problem, is because they can't get the bridle on. All right, and this is our typical bridle without the reins. And what I would suggest to anybody that has this problem is they need to reschool their horse into actually accepting this, is to dismantle the bridle. So what we're going to do is we're going to take off the flash and the cavesson. Under there, and then we're still left with the brow band, which is the bit that we've got to put the ears underneath, so that also comes off to make it easier. Yes. Okay, and then all you do is just slip it around the neck, bring it up to where it should be, and then you can just put it on the other side of you there. And slip the bit in, and then we just do it up. And there, bar for not having the reins, you've got your bridle on, you haven't had to go up over the ears. The horse can now get a very, very positive feeling from having the bit put in its mouth, because it's not having its ears attacked, if you like. And there you have one happy horse. And it's an easy way, pop the reins on and off you go. Come in front here. And good.
Who's this one?
This is Willow, and Willow has a problem with her feet, and I get lots of people phone me up about horses that they can't get near their back feet or their front feet, or they're youngsters, and they can't get to pick their feet out. So what we're going to do is something very basic. We're just going to walk around and actually ask her to pick her foot up. But instead of hanging on to it like people do when they pick their feet out, we're just going to let her put it down again.
Right.
All right, so you just go down and you say, up, good girl. And that is enough. That's teaching her to pick her foot up on command and then put it down. And I think people should do this when they're beginning to teach their youngsters to do just that. So I'm going to go on the other side. Thank you, Willow. And ask her on this foot. Willow, up, good girl. Now, although she moved and it didn't look as though she was actually picking it up, she did on command. And again, Willow, up, good girl. Easy. And the back foot, Willow, up. And we just tap and a little scratch, good girl. And she picks her foot up. So what she's beginning to realise, every time she picks her foot up when I ask, I say, good girl. And she's cracked it, she's done it. And if you do this many times, and what we'll do here is we actually go out in the field with them.
Right.
Whilst they're not tied up, just ask them to pick their feet up. So that's what people need to do, is get out there, just go to their horse in the field and say, up, up, good girl. Okay. Okay, we're going to start with this leg, running hand down her leg, keeping my feet 45 degrees to hers. We're going to ask her to pick up her front leg. Willow, up, good girl. Holding the foot and the hoof, we're going to circle to the left and then to the right, and if you notice it's coming from my ankles and I'm actually resting my outside elbow on my knee to protect my back. And then when you've done that, once they can cope with that, and Willow's doing really well today because she hates this really, I'm doing a figure of 8. And then once we've done that, we lower the foot to the floor and tell a good girl by connecting it all. Well done. That was really good. And then we would do exactly the same with the back leg. Willow, up. Willow, up. Resting my elbow again, holding the fetlock joint, circling left and right. And you progressively do more circles, the more and more used to this they are, and the better balance they become. Good girl. Rest the toe on the floor and then just wiggle the hock. Good, well done. And brush her down. Excellent. And then you just go round and you do the same. Oh, that was really good on the other side. Okay, I get a lot of horses come to me, or I go to them, that have a problem like rearing or bucking, or they won't actually move forward. So in actual fact, it's a ridden problem, and it obviously causes their owners a great deal of aggravation and upset. One of the main problems I've found in my experience is that it is the saddle, that the saddle is not fitting properly. And one of the big things that we see, especially perhaps not so much in the warm blood like Tally is, but in the thoroughbred, are the high withers, and they get a lot of muscle wastage down here, and their muscle actually dips away, and it can be as much as that. And people actually think that that is their horse, and they'll say, yeah, well, he's fine, he's always been like that. The only reason he's always been like that is he's perhaps always had a saddle that has been too small. So the saddle is pushing on the muscle and is creating this awful muscle wastage down here. Now, Tally's not too bad at all. His saddle's not too bad.
And does
but
that create all types of problems?
Absolutely. I mean, it can cause sore backs, sore necks. It can go all the way down to their legs. They can then have foot problems. So it is something we really need to check as owners and riders, that our saddle fits. So we've spoken about this dipped wither. Another thing to look for is to how your horse actually stands, and to look at his leg. And if it is slightly going backwards, could I borrow the wand? If it's actually slightly back when he's standing square, that could actually suggest that the saddle is too tight, it's not allowing for the shoulder to rotate and come underneath. You want it a little bit as he's standing now, perpendicular up and down. Okay, so there are a few things to look for. I'd like to go and get a saddle now and show you how that can fit. Okay, this is Tally's saddle. Just let him sniff it. I'm just going to pop it up here. Now just look at his language here. His tail swishing, he's moving his legs, he's lifting his feet up, and he's actually saying to me that he's not quite happy with this. So we'd actually need to know why. Come back, sweetheart. All right, and again, there's no good getting angry with him because he's actually not liking what we're doing. It's all right, sweetie. Good boy. And again, we just use the touch and the ears a little bit just to get him to calm down. It's very interesting. Easy, easy, good boy. Okay. All right, now we need to really find out why he's behaving like that. You see, we've got quite a lot of room here. Oops, just eaten my plant. Underneath the saddle, you want a good 4 fingers, but 4 fingers with a saddle without a rider is no good, because as soon as the rider gets on, this is pushed down. So we'd actually have to see his owner sitting on him and actually measure that there's enough room there, which I would hazard a guess that is fine. All right, the other thing that we need to do is make sure that we can see right the way down from the gullet front to back, and that is not actually touching the spine at all. So the spine has actually got good clearance. Easy, sweetheart. So if you just stay there, and that looks fine, I can see daylight the other end of it. And again, you need to check it with the rider on board. as well. And another problem with saddles that are too tight is that the shoulder blade cannot rotate and move back underneath the saddle as it does need to do when they're actually moving. And what owners can actually check is that this bit of their saddle actually does flare out a little bit to allow that shoulder blade to come right underneath. And this directly relates again to the legs, at what angle they stand, whether they're straight up and down or whether they're slightly backwards. And what you'll find with the horses that are slightly backwards when they're standing square is that this is probably pinching in really tightly and their shoulder blades coming up against the saddle and not being able to follow through and go underneath to come forward. So it's another check that owners can do. Now, another problem that I see quite frequently are saddles that what we call bridge, and that means that they're literally resting on the 4 points that begin and end the tree inside, and that means that all the rider's weight is only on those 4 points instead of being on these lovely pads that run either side of the spine. Okay, easy now. So what I'd like to do, just to show you, is to you see it's getting worse. He's actually really not comfortable with this at all. Okay, I want to just pop some pads under here and show you what bridging looks like, because it's again something that owners can actually check for themselves. Okay, so we've put the saddle on and we've put 3 of these pads underneath. I'm going to put the last one in now, and this is going to make the saddle not fit. This is going to simulate this bridging that often happens. And what owners can do when they've got their saddle on is they can lift the flaps and just see if they can see daylight underneath this area here. All right, and that's quite obvious there. That really is quite a lot of daylight. And what happens is when the rider's sitting on top, instead of the weight being distributed through the saddle pads, whoa, sweetheart, through the padding underneath the saddle along the spine, it just goes through these 4 points on the saddle, and that's what causes an awful lot of problems. And that's when you get the rearing, the bucking, or not wanting to go out for a hack. All right, so a good check there for owners. Just make sure your saddle is sitting all the way along the spine, on either side obviously, and is not doing this bridging. Okay, I'd like to show you something, Susan. It's absolutely amazing. This saddle fitted a horse, and that was what I went and had a look at him wearing. Okay, when we looked at his back, looked at saddle fit, got another saddle fitted, this is what he ended up wearing. So can you see the difference? Yeah. And yet he apparently went very well in this smaller one. There was no problem. But the difference with him actually in the wider saddle, with more pads along the spine, is just phenomenal. He goes really well. So it's very easy to slip into, yeah, my saddle fits. We need to check it all the time.
These stables are different with this gap here.
Yes, they are. It's something I had designed specially for my unit here. And it's basically because horses are herd animals. Mm-hmm. They're affectionate, they like to groom each other, they like to touch each other. And if there's a wall from top to bottom, they can't do any of these things. And I've found that my horses are so happy here. In the mornings, you don't see them all stuck with their heads out of the doors. They're actually talking to each other and interacting in between stables. So I think it's a must, and I think if anyone's having new stables or can possibly get their stables designed like this, I think it's a good thing. And you like it, don't you? Eh?
That's it, you stay there. Lovely. There's a good girl, I think. Marvellous. Okay, Cathy, I've put her head collar on.
That's good. Okay. Yep, that's smashing, but what we have actually is it's a little bit too loose, okay? When we fit a head collar, we actually need the noseband to actually be about 1 inch just below the cheek pieces here.
Right.
Okay, so we're a few inches low. So if we just undo the buckle again,
yep.
and take it up. And this again is something that people need to check, is that head collars do fit. If they're too loose, they're very annoying for the horse when it actually, that's absolutely perfect. Good girl, Missy.
Yeah.
And if you were actually going to work her with the leading that we've been doing today off the head collar, you'd want that just to fit a little more snugly, so that it would be as if she had a bridle on, because you're actually working her off it. Good girl. That's lovely. Well done. I'd like to show you, Sue, a method of tying up that is a quick release knot. This, in actual fact, is what a lot of people term as quick release, but in my opinion, it doesn't release quick enough, because if I actually pull this rope, it will still remain attached to the string. And I'll just show you there. We'll just pull it apart and we're still attached. So in case of an emergency, say a fire, or the horse has got caught up in something, we will then have to pull it all the way through the string, and it all takes time. And in fact, this is quite an easy, nice rope. It's not a normal type of rope that people use. So an easier way to, or a safer way to get this quick release knot going, is to actually have a hoop, place it through this string, twist it once, and then pull through.
Okay.
And then obviously we put the dangly bit through the hoop again. But if you see now, I'll pull this through and you'll see that we are not attached to the string.
I think you better show me that again.
Okay, right, so we've got a loop through the string. So we've got the loop through the string. We then twist it once on itself, pass another loop through, tighten it, and then we're back to square one with tying up. So you undo it.
If I pull this.
Yeah.
Yay!
And you're through.
It's been a most remarkable day. Cathy Tindall has shown that we don't need to dominate with anger or physical force. Much better to listen to and respect what she calls the horse's own silent language. It's not magic, it's not hypnotism, it's a mixture of proven natural techniques that we would all do well to practice. Cathy says it works on all sorts of animals. I wonder whether it works on humans. Go on, try it.